destruction, but who posed no imminent threat to the United States.
So what changed the president's perspective? Out front tonight, Democratic Congresswoman Barbara Lee and presidential historian Douglas Brinkley. Thanks to both of you for being with us. Today, guys, we saw the administration build its case for a strike on Syria. Congresswoman Lee, I want to put this to you first. Is this what you expected from the president who won a Nobel Peace Prize in his first year in office?
Well, first, let me say this is a very, very tough decision. I think the president, as commander-in-chief, has some very difficult decisions that he must make now as the president and as commander-in-chief. As Secretary Kerry said, this is not Iraq, this is not Afghanistan, this is not Libya. They presented some very compelling evidence. I think everyone in our country understands that crimes against humanity as it relates to chemical attacks against civilians and vulnerable people is just horrific and unacceptable. Having said that, let me also say that Secretary Kerry said that there's no military solution and we must seek a negotiated settlement. What I'm concerned about is, should this administration move forward with military strikes, how do you get to that negotiated settlement? What in the world does that mean in terms of more violence, more regional conflict? And in fact, the 64 members of us who signed our letter want to make sure Congress is called back in session, debate the issues, the facts, and then vote on whether or not we should engage militarily.
Okay, Doug, let's dial this out a little wider because a lot of Democrats see what they want in the president. People forget, for example, that when he won the Nobel Prize, he gave a speech defending military action, not peace. He said, in part, there will be times when nations acting individually or in concert will find the use of force not only necessary but morally justified. So is the president actually staying true to his word if he takes military action, or is he conflicted?
I think he's staying true to his word for what you just said. I mean, that was in his Nobel address. What a place to deliver a war message. It was shocking at the time. President Obama means business. We're living in a very dangerous world, a war on terror. His dissent about Iraq was about sending U.S. troops in. I do think, though, the president needs to talk to the American people soon and explain we're not intervening in a Syrian civil war where 100,000 people were died. We're not trying to remake Syria. We just cannot let people use nuclear weapons or chemical weapons in the world. And you have Iran starting to perhaps have a nuclear program. Now you have chemical weapons being used in Syria. He's given them a lot of time in Syria, and it hasn't worked, so he has to take a tougher stance now.
Doug, a year ago, the president was clear about his red line. Listen to this.
A red line for us is we start seeing a whole bunch of chemical weapons moving around or being utilized.
Will history look at that statement as a mistake?
I don't think it's a mistake. I think it was a warning. If it is a mistake, it's that we didn't act sooner in Syria. We didn't arm the rebels. General Petraeus and Hillary Clinton suggested we may have needed to have done that. The president wisely has not wanted to get into a post-Arab Spring military situation in the Middle East. We've been trying to stay out of it. But the images and the intelligence reports of the gassing of these people, and we're dealing with a kook in Assad and with his Hitler mustache, and he's on the border of Israel. He's destabilizing Jordan and Turkey. It's a problem, and the president would be negligent in his duty if he just played ostrich and didn't grab this by the scruff of the neck at this point.
Congresswoman Lee, former President Jimmy Carter spoke out against the use of force. In a statement from the Carter Center, he said, quote, a punitive military response without a UN Security Council mandate or without broad support from NATO and the Arab League would be illegal under international law and unlikely to alter the course of war. On the other hand, President Bush turned down an opportunity to criticize a possible strike on Syria. Do you think President Obama is still in step with the Democratic Party?
Let me say, President Obama, first of all, I think is trying to make the most prudent decisions that he can make. But I also believe that, as Secretary Kerry said earlier, there is no military solution. It's very important to build international support for a negotiated settlement so we can prevent any more carnage and any more violence and any more assaults with chemical weapons and gassing of people. That's outrageous, and it should not be engaged in anywhere on our planet. But I also have to say that there's no way that we should engage in any type of action militarily until Congress comes back in session and talks about it, debates it, put forth the evidence, and vote it up or down. That way, with regard to the president engaging in a military strike, he'll have or not have the support of Congress. But the American people, I think, demand this. They are war weary, but they also understand that we need to ensure that this never happens again. But I'm not so clear that military action is the way to go, and I don't think that is.
Thanks to both of you for being with us. Thank you. Our sixth story out front, outrage grows over a 30-day sentence.